Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are getting into the swing of things. There's another classic Simpsons episode review full of guest stars and side characters and all sorts of fun. So we are going to hold court today, and of course, joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
You know, Miles, every time you and I get together, all we have is love, which is a really funny thing, saying that we are absolutely nothing. However, I'm doing well today, Miles. You know, I got a fresh new cut, both in beard and hair, just for the show, you know, because everyone's always watching us. And it looks like that you combined that hair that I had taken off and added to yours, because it looks a little longer today for some reason. So I don't know.
Just keeps growing. Oh, I'm not wearing a bandana, so it's actually at like
that's what it is.
Full length. Yeah, usually it's like raised up a couple inches.
There you go.
Wild.
But, this is another one of those episodes, man, where like I thought it was going to be a little more boring. Like I remember being excited for this episode when I was a kid because you knew who all these people were. But I thought that was going to overshadow the comedy that's supposed to be in the episode. But I found myself laughing out loud at quite a few moments in this one. So I'm excited to talk about it. I guess I should go ahead and throw it back to you. You man, you myth, you seller of mole insurance. You're Miles.
Hey, that's not true. I'm calling a fault on that one.
I think he's burned through all his tennis puns in like the first 30 seconds of this.
Oh, I doubt that very much. I doubt that very much. I will let you think that for now.
Now do a Mario.
This is actually an episode that I was really excited for when it came out when I was a kid. This was at a time in 2001. The episode we're talking about today is Tennis the Menace, which originally debuted in 2001, February. I lost the date, but I'm looking for it.
I think it's like
February 11th, 2001. And I'll just say it has a lot of like professional tennis stars, and I played tennis at the time in high school that this episode came out. So like I watched, pro tennis a lot. I was very actively, following all of the major cups and whatnot, the US Open, the Australian Open, the French Open, the other one Wimbledon. I was like, the other major one I'm missing, Wimbledon, is it? And these players that they have, I mean, first of all, I don't think at this point in like history that you can make a claim that there is anybody in the sport better than Venus and Serena Williams, period. Like they have capped everybody else in my mind in terms of how popular and good at the game they were. But also at the time, Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras were just like top-notch names. This was at the peak of their rivalry.
I feel like in 2001, if there would have actually been a doubles match with those four people, it would probably be one of the biggest matches that ever happened in tennis.
I honestly think they did do that. I feel like they played mixed
Simpsons
doubles.
Did it first, Miles.
I feel like that match happened for like charity. I might be making that up, but we should probably Google that.
That sounds very feasible. But if there's an actual match like for tennis standing with these four, it would have blown up the world, I feel like, at this day and age.
But with that said, and admittedly, I've been feeling this way. Like I felt like this was going to happen. This is the first episode in a while that I didn't love rewatching it now. Like I thought it was okay. There was some funny moments that I enjoyed, but I think if you put Tennis the Menace up against any episode that we reviewed for the last 5 weeks, it falls short. Funny enough, this episode, I think that the last one that I think that this one maybe beats is the last episode in the season, which featured the word menace in it, the computer wore menace shoes. But I feel like pretty much every episode between now and then, and throwing in Homer versus Dignity on that as well, has been a better episode than this episode.
Interesting. So we kind of had it's cool to look at like how we went into the episode, both of us feeling, because I felt negatively and you felt very positively, and it's cool to see like how that can influence the outcome of how we feel about it.
I'm probably just bitter because I never made it as that pro tennis player I once dreamed I'd be, but Yeah, and turned out I wasn't as quite the athlete I thought I was, but no,
In my book, you're
I
always an ace,
legitimately.
Miles.
What's that?
So in my book, you're always an ace.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the expectation concept really plays such a big hand into everything. I mean, honestly, I've been wanting to talk about it anyways. We'll probably do a best on everything about this very soon. But I'm seeing the Batman tonight after this, and I'm very excited about it, to a point that I'm almost afraid. I'm like, I've been trying to keep my expectations in check, but they've been boiling up the last like 48 hours or so. And I'm worried that I'm like overhyping the movie before I even see it, which can be a very difficult thing to follow up. I actually had a friend of mine who he just saw the movie himself, and he said it's the best Batman movie there's been. So my follow-up question was him to like rank his 9 previous favorite live action Batman movies. And fortunately, our lists were like almost exactly the same, which gives me high, but in a way that's a double-edged sword too, because now I'm like, oh, I'm relieved because that means I'm more likely to like this movie more, which means that my expectations have yet grown again. Expectations matter. It really does. It sets the whole tempo for how much somebody will enjoy something.
I'm pretty sure as long as he's not sparkling in a scene, everyone's gonna love it. So
that's the part I'm looking forward to most. Quit ruining my version of Batman.
I want it sparkling in with nipples.
All right, that one's out, Rich. I'm not going to allow that joke. This episode does start with some classic Bart shenanigans. I guess I should back up slightly. The chalkboard gag on this one is I will not publish the principal's credit report. And then we get the couch gag with the family ice skating to the couch and then Homer falling through on his side of the couch only, which is pretty funny.
And luckily the couch only broke on his part, so.
And weirdly enough, like this doesn't always happen, but this one actually, the couch scene kind of makes sense rolling into the opening of the show, because we get Homer taking a warm shower, which is exactly what you would want to do if you just fallen into cold water. But Bart has discovered that while washing the dishes, filling up the dog's water dish, why would Bart ever think to wash the dishes? He realizes that if he turns on the water in the kitchen, it scalds Homer, which I feel is something that doesn't happen as much anymore. I don't know if like that's something that like technology changed or if I've just gotten more used to it. But like, I feel like that used to be a much bigger issue, like both in the houses I lived in and like as a trope on television that you would see a lot.
Well, I feel like if you go to like a relative's house, an older relative's house, and use their faucets, this still goes on quite frequently. But yeah, it's.
Bro, my house was built in the 1960s. Like you would think it would happen if it happened.
I don't know. You've had work done on your house, Miles. You're a homeowner, man. You take care of your business. But you know, some of the older people, maybe not so much.
I don't know why, but I just thought of like the concept where wasn't it? Oh no, it was South Park. I'm tripping. I was thinking it was last week's episode, but the new episode of South Park where they're realtors and Cartman's like trying to be like, yeah, there's plenty of room back here for like a swimming pool or a tennis court.
Maybe like in the future, people will want nostalgia, so they purposely install faucets that change the temperature of the shower.
That's it. Well, just so that they can do this prank on their grandchildren.
There you go.
It's like a role reversal type of situation. But yeah, Bart is like just like gleefully giggling every time Homer's like, and he's starting to like, he's actually getting him to like play notes. So he actually gets him to like scream out, "Mary had a little lamb."
Mm-hmm. And then Beethoven's Fifth as well after that.
Yeah, it's after Marge tells him to quit it. So he quits playing Mary's Little Lamb and does Beethoven's Fifth Sympathy.
Technically, he listened.
That's accurate. We also see over at the Springfield Retirement Castle that you get I think it's just like a talent show or like a variety show, but we actually get a old guy comedian, which is really fun. I hope to be one of those one day. You ever notice after dialysis you get the munchies?
You saying the stuff we all forgot.
You know what I can't open? Cabinets.
Can he say that?
And you know what else scares me? edgy material. But after the comedian, we get Jasper, who is actually quite talented at plate spinning. Instead of plates, though, he uses his dentures.
But I just like how into it Homer is, because every time one of them starts to slow down, he's like, "Oh, go to that one over there. It's starting to fall." He's very much into this act.
Yeah, he is. I'll go ahead and say from the commentary real quick that they talked about how this episode was a little bit weird in that they admit that it took them a really long time to actually get into the episode compared to what we've seen, especially in more recent episodes, where sometimes that opening bit is like 3 to 4 minutes, and then they're already doing something completely different.
Well, Abe will even make a comment about it in this episode too.
yeah, absolutely. They definitely call themselves out, which is actually kind of really neat. But This episode's commentary featured the showrunner Mike Scully, the writer Ian Maxtone Graham, also featured Matt Selman, Al Jean, Max Cross, John Frank, John Payne, and even though he had nothing to do with this episode or the Simpsons other than having a small part in the movie, Phil Rosenthal joined the commentary today, and it was literally just because he happened to be on set, and they were like, "Hey, come talk with us." And he's the creator of the show Everybody Loves Raymond, which was actually a pretty solid show back in this time period.
It's funny to me how often that seems to happen now in the commentary, where someone just happens to be in the neighborhood, and they're like, "Hey, just come talk on this commentary track."
Honestly, I don't think that they would even agree with me, and I don't in any way mean this disrespectfully, but I legitimately think that these guys get bored. I think that the way that my understanding from listening to the commentary, I pick up on a few things, of how it's done and whatnot. It's not like they're doing this like us 1 week at a time, off and on. They get the DVD release, and they basically have to go sit in a room for many, many hours. And essentially do the same thing over and over and over again. So I think that the grabbing of random people is literally an option. It's literally why we started the Best Darn Everything. It's an attempt to keep our sanity of not doing the same thing over and over and over again. And they get even worse just having to do like an entire 20 something episodes pretty much in a couple day span.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
While still working on the show too. Like, it's not like they get the day off. They just have to take time to go into the booth and do that as part of their job on top of the already existing job of keeping the show being made.
Contractually obligated to comment.
Sounds difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So we wrap up on the talent show. Abe actually sings "What's New, Pussycat."
Oh.
And the host announces that all of the contestants are going to receive extra servings of honey mush.
Ooh.
But there can only be one winner, and since Abe's already standing here, what the heck?
Wow, a free auto.
Keep reading.
Autopsy. Oh.
Joke got dark quick. But hey, those things are not cheap, so that's an important thing to have. Abe actually wins a free autopsy coupon, so him and Homer go off to the funeral home to claim the big prize, and they meet with a funeral director, who explains that this autopsy coupon appears to be valid. What other funerary services can we provide for the predeceased?
The dude looks like pissed off too.
He's like, mad that he has to give away a free autopsy.
Yeah.
Which also, the autopsy would have nothing to do with the funeral.
Exactly.
It's a hospital thing.
It's a 2-for-1 on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole deal. Coffin, tombstones, anti-stink spray.
Sir, we prefer the term casket to coffin and monument to tombstone. We have all the leading brands of anti-stink spray. So funny, I'll go ahead before we get into the other parts of this. We see some cool stuff in this funeral home, won't lie. But Ian Maxtone Graham, the writer of this episode, for research purposes for this episode, went and visited a funeral home. And he decided that the best way to get all the information that he could would be to pretend that he had a dead relative and was like legitimately shopping this service. So he was asking all sorts of questions. And he said that it was incredible how nice the people at the funeral home were, because he basically was allowed to ask all sorts of ridiculous questions that they politely answered without even thinking about it. They even toured him around a graveyard, showed him some of the mausoleums. And like, even like he legit, the stink spray thing, literally he asked about like the smell and like what happens and all that good stuff. So they did their research to make sure that we got the most accurate depiction of this free autopsy service.
It's one of my cousins actually works for a funeral service, and when we had a relative pass away recently, we were all gathered together, and he was talking with the funeral home, trying to get all the stuff done, and he was telling us stories about some of those mausoleums and what they smell like. So, like, yeah, it sounds like you definitely need an anti-stink spray.
Well, luckily for us, they have all the leading brands. You know what? I'll go ahead and back up for a second too, because I missed it earlier, and I do want to talk about it all the way back to our opening sequence with Homer in the shower. They actually talked about on the commentary how they would not be allowed to do that anymore because post season 14, they were told that they were no longer allowed to show Homer's naked backside on television anymore. Those the censors. The rules on censorship changed. They were no longer allowed. That constituted as nudity and was no longer allowed. But weirdly enough, just with how the rules work and whatnot, and again, this is at the time of the commentary, and I think at this point, this would be about circa 2008 or 2009. But at the time of this commentary, they said that new episodes post season 14 that aired at 8:00 on Fox could not feature any backside male nudity in addition to the other nudity that was already prohibited. But at that same time, the reruns could show it at 6 p.m. on whatever channel. So it just goes to show that censorship makes even less sense than it normally does, which is none. That was a weird way of trying to go about that. Whatever.
Those
back
asses.
To the funeral. I'm dying over here, so let's give me some help.
Well, Bart's about to be dying too, Miles. Vroom, vroom.
Oh, man. This is where we get he heads to dead man's curve. He's like on like he's on like a simulator.
No, I mean there is a casket that just is super fancy.
That's right, and this is one that has the TV with the picture.
Yes.
Picture on the tombstone. They have it set up with modern technology that was available here in 2001. You could actually have a camera of the deceased putting a video projection of their face, allegedly, or assumingly just like sitting there not moving, right there smack dab on the gravestone itself. And we cut to the demonstration where we can see Bart has obviously like locked himself in this casket and is like desperately trying to claw his way out of it.
And then that's when like Homer's watching the screen with him, and Homer says, "Does that thing got picture-in-picture?"
Of course, this is Contempo, or this is the Contempo, and they switch it to the basketball game where now Bart's like terrified face is just moved to the corner, and we get Homer and Abe and the director all like very distinctly watching the game.
Oh, geez, how come they never call traveling anymore? Which
on the
is like the
commentary.
most generic thing you can say, but it also will connect with everybody that's ever watched basketball in recent years.
And that, sir, was a joke that they said came from the great John Schwartzwelder, who just helped out with that line and seems like such a perfect Schwartzwelder. Honestly, he probably wasn't even like helping with the script. He was probably watching the basketball game in the writer's room, and he just like yelled that at the screen, and they're like, "Great pitch, John."
Like, again, it's such a generic basketball line, but like when Homer said that, I was like, yeah, and getting me all riled up for no reason.
It's funny because it's true.
Exactly.
So they go from the coffin cells floor to start looking around the cemetery, which apparently Bart did get out because he does catch up eventually. They go into a deluxe area where the caskets are buried in fresh, unused graves, and the monuments clean themselves.
Ooh, this place looks super nice.
They even have an optional weeping widow service where a woman dressed in black with a veil will go from gravestone to gravestone and cry about the loss of their loved one.
She's crying at one gravestone, and then when she's done, she turns around to the one behind her, and she like glances at the name to see what the person's name is, and then she starts crying and saying their name too.
She's in
nice
like
touch.
complete hysterics. She's like a great actress because she's full blown, convincingly mourning her late husband. Then she goes straight face and then starts mourning whoever's on the next stone. It's a good joke.
But I mean, can you blame Abe? He wants this to be his final resting grounds.
And Homer's trying to pinch pennies, but Abe's like threatening, if you try to nickel and dime me out of this situation, I'm going to haunt you good.
Especially when you're on the toilet.
Sadly, in general, the funeral industry is a fucking scam, Croc. Lots and lots of people taking advantage of people who are mourning and in a really weak emotional state. And it's a disgusting business. But in this case, it's really funny when we see that this guy is like, all right, with the mole insurance, your total comes out to $17,000 to put a dead body in the ground, you fucking criminals.
What?
Sorry, that last part wasn't in the script. Or
Actually,
you could just toss him in the woods and let the wolves carry him off. It's really up to you.
Mr. Salesman.
Yes.
We're going to go with the wolves.
For what it's worth, I give you full permission to anybody who wants to do whatever with my dead body. First of all, have fun. And then second of all, do what you want that's cheap because I don't need anything fancy. I'll be dead. I won't care.
I feel like the best use of a dead Miles would be like a Weekend at Bernie's situation.
I hope so, dude. I would love that. The only thing that makes me sad about that is I won't be able to like enjoy the payoff of the joke. But yeah, dude, let's do that. Honestly, too, I feel like I've saturated myself with enough THC over the years that I'd probably make a good edible if anybody's wanting to experience weed and cannibalism at the same time.
The only issue I have with the Weekend at Bernie's thing is I've never actually seen any of those movies. So,
dude, those are great. Honestly, the sequel even. I mean, you would think that like you could only do so many jokes with two drunk party dudes carrying around a dead guy, but the sequel actually is all right.
Well, maybe we'll have a third movie with nothing like the first two. I don't know. I assume they did this in the movies.
You really should watch those for what it's worth. Those are great. I haven't seen them in like a long time, so now I worry that my recommendation might be dated. But I remember loving those movies when I was younger. But I do love that Homer tries to justify. He's like, "Dad, I love you this much," and he holds out his arms nice and wide.
He holds out his arms pretty far.
Yeah. It's a big gesture. But unfortunately explained that that's only $900. I wish I could do 17 grand, but my arms just don't stretch any farther.
Sir, if I may, think of it as an investment in extravagance. The Mazzapalooza can be seen from space. It will consume as much space as a regulation-sized tennis court.
A tennis court, eh? And that is, at this point, we've done all of this just so Homer can get somebody to reference a tennis court in a completely unrelated manner, just as a size reference. And that's where we cut to the Simpsons backyard, where, of course, Homer is having a regulation-sized tennis court installed.
Oh, I can't believe we went through all that just to wind up with a tennis court.
Yeah, I'll bet you didn't see that coming.
Which, how much does a tennis court cost? It'd be funny if it was $17,000.
That's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine it would be that much because it's mostly just concrete. But now that you say that, there is like some sort of special surfacing on the top of it. So it probably depends on how accurate you're making it or whatever. But that was how all of that was just a ruse to get us to this tennis court in the backyard situation. Homer is accused of not caring what happens when his dad dies, but Homer denies this and is like, if it were up to him, you wouldn't die at all.
Miles, to be fair, tennis court costs, according to Google, around $60,000 on average, with a range of $25,000 to $120,000.
Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus
I saw
Christ.
ads for tennis courts, but I didn't want to click on them because I don't want to start getting ads.
You're gonna get marketed.
Yeah.
I want to make sure to get this joke out because it makes fun of one of my favorite targets for comedy.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. When Homer tells his father, I if it were up to me, you wouldn't die at all. But try telling that to old Killy McGee up there.
Of course, that would be his favorite joke there.
Of course, dude. Man. We actually see that the tennis court is installed and Bart and Lisa are already practicing. Homer comes out and is like, what are y'all doing?
Practicing tennis.
That's tennis? Then what's the one with the chicks wail on it, where the chicks wail on each other?
Foxy boxing?
Oh, that's what I wanted. And that was somehow only a 5-minute act. Honestly, that felt longer.
See, they got there pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they 5 minutes isn't that much outside the norm. I do think usually, though, it's like the first act still includes like a little more development of the like main plot, maybe.
Or some through lines that are better than not just a one-off joke that gets us to where we need to go.
Good one-off joke, but it did take a minute. Yeah, but yeah, that's the end of our first act. We come into our second act with Homer adjusting the net so that it's nice and springy. Which is actually demonstrated when Santa's little helper runs full speed into it and is back, like launched several yards away.
Poor guy.
Marge is excited because a tennis court can really make a house look classy, and it'll do wonders for our social life.
Yeah, it'd be nice to entertain friends and have people over.
Ned Flanders pops over the fence. Hey, Simpsons, you got a tennis court?
Keep walking, Flanders.
Will do.
Faster.
We see Lenny and Carl come over, and they're apparently, because we need them to for this episode, everybody in Springfield plays tennis. Every single person. Richie, do you know 5 people in real life that play tennis?
Recreationally, like the Simpsons do? Yeah. I mean, you and I have played tennis. I'm not great at it, but if I
wouldn't even consider myself in that bout. So admittedly, if one of my friends got a tennis court, I would probably be over there pretty quickly. So I'll give them this one.
Remember for my birthday, like 5 years ago, we went and played tennis with a few people?
I do remember that. That was actually fun.
It does happen.
It does.
I just real-lifed you.
Damn, dude. All right, fine. I'll quit being such a negative Nelly. That one was my fault. I think I already used that one, but I'm gonna take credit for it again. I don't care. It's a double fault.
Oh.
Homer gets done playing with Carl. Homer and Marge playing against Lenny and Carl, and you can kind of already see that Marge is actually pretty decent at this. Yeah. And Homer doesn't give a shit. He is just having a good time. Like he jumps up on the net at points. He's like walking it like a tightrope. At one point, he like catches the ball in his pants, which I love the fact that he actually does get racked. It's like that's exactly what would happen.
It's in the bag, and he opens. But I like one of the first things I noted was in the very first scene with Lenny and Carl, the food spread looked amazing in the background.
Dude, do you have to have that nice of a spread if you own a tennis court? Is that why? That's where the extra money comes from, dude. The tennis court is $8,000. The other 20 whatever is all for food.
Yeah, but then you charge $100 a sandwich and you make a killing all of a sudden. But I like that at one point Carl's even like, so what happens now? Is the food free? Do we pay someone?
And Lenny's like embarrassed. It's almost like they're a married couple here. Lenny like kicks Carl under the table. Like, of course not. They send you a bill.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked. Kick back. That's how you learn by asking, you dumbass.
Honestly, I really like Carl's line here. I do. I think that's so true. And I think it's weird that as a society, like we make fun of people in these situations when they like ask what we consider dumb questions. It's just like people learn different things at different times. Also, when people mispronounce words, that just means they haven't heard it out loud before. And that's definitely me covering my own ass because I do that a lot. But it means that I've read the fucking word and just haven't ever heard anybody speak it.
Calm down, Miles. I'm just trying to educate you at certain times. I don't want you to have a nuclear meltdown.
Hot today, dude. I came in. I'm shit. I was in reference the dude that gets mad at the tennis. Who gets mad in tennis all the time. McEnroe. I'm having a McEnroe episode.
So you're the tennis guy, yet I got the McEnroe thing.
Yeah, there you go.
I am new tennis champion.
McRenoe?
Yes, Miles. In this day and age, you are 100% correct.
Well, that's how you learn, by asking, dumbass.
By not getting the correct answer. Catering to everyone's needs.
We even see other people that you wouldn't necessarily expect as much to be playing tennis with the Simpsons, because now it's Kent Brockman and apparently the weather girl Stephanie.
Wow.
And Homer's a little more distracted by Stephanie than he is focused on the game. They absolutely obliterate them, and Kent's like, that's game, set, and match to us. But the real winners here are Marge hors d'oeuvres.
Wow. How do you come up with such witty remarks?
And it cuts in, and we can see that even while playing tennis, Kent Brockman wears a little earpiece, and he has the director reading him lines.
Come on, hurry up. I guess you could say it's my racket.
And Kent, though, gets a slight misinterpretation. I guess you could say I'm Iraqi.
Get off my property.
I'm not well enough versed to know if that's a racist joke or not in today's society, but we do love people.
We're just going to gloss. We're just reading a script. We're going to gloss over that one.
I'll actually say this is this joke killed me last night in an open mic. There's a girl there who her husband is currently deployed, but she said, "Don't worry, he's nice and safe in the Middle East."
Okay,
that's a pretty good joke. I'm not gonna lie. We see that the Simpsons are getting the law visiting, and at first I think you might think, maybe that tennis court isn't up to code. But Wiggum explains, no, we're just checking to make sure you're having a crime-free morning.
As far as I know.
Lou points out, it would be a real crime.
What's that, Lou?
Letting that tennis court go to waste.
Would you boys like to play tennis?
And you can see that under their cop uniforms, they already have their like tennis clothes on, and they even
have shorts on with like their police shirts on.
Yeah,
and then the rackets are in their gun holsters, which was a great touch.
And I think Marge is just happy to have anybody to play with at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, regardless of how, and they obviously know these people. They've been in a few episodes at this point.
They've watched Marge and Homer skinny dip before in the backyard, so .
Oh, yeah, that's true. We see that Marge is actually trying to close up the front door, but before she can, another racket slides in, and this time it's Mr. Burns and Smithers.
What? Well, hello, Marge. Lovely day for tennis, eh?
I thought you had your own court.
He did, but he had it converted into a human chessboard.
We cut to the Burns Manor where he literally has full, grown men dressed in chess piece outfits who are just on standby, basically waiting for them to come back and finish this game. Upon is like, hey, Burns has been gone for a while now.
Let's make a run for it.
And they all leave, leaving the king screaming, "Come back, fools! Protect me!"
And then the other pieces from the other side start beating him up. And I don't know why that was so funny to me, but it just was.
Dude, it's like, this is like wizard chess from Harry Potter meets UFC. They line up, and that's how they determine which piece is taken.
But it's just funny to me that they're kind of playing by the rules of chess for the character. The king is defenseless, Miles.
It's true. That's how chess works. What, you've never played chess?
I'm just saying, it was comical.
We also this is where we really start to see that Marge is getting more and more frustrated with Homer. Again, only in the sense that she's taking the game seriously, and he very much is not. He's literally surfing up on the net and doing all sorts of stuff. He compares himself to John Rocker, O.J. Simpson, and Dwarf. Which I think at this time John Rocker hadn't been I don't think all the stuff about John Rocker came out about him yet, but the stuff about OJ definitely had.
Yeah, but still with John Rocker, he was known as like the bad boy of baseball. Like
Oh, interesting.
he was known for being like he was nothing close to being a clown.
He was on Survivor one season, and then everybody found out who he was, and like it spread like what he had done, and everybody like hated him, and they voted him off.
Makes sense.
And I have no idea who Dorf is. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought that was a character from Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
Not Worf, but I thought that was like Deep Space Nine or somebody.
Oh, I was thinking Worf. That's
is Dorf, not Dorge.
So after Homer continues to mess up a few shots and Marge is becoming visibly frustrated with him, Moe gives him an easy lob. This is where he tries to catch it in his pants, and it does not go well. And you can, again, see more and more that Marge is just visibly getting more and more annoyed by her husband. We cut later to Chief Wiggum and Lou at the supermarket, and Lou's like, hey, Chief, are we going to go bust that crack house tonight?
Yeah, we did that last night.
Yeah, but this time we got the right address. You coming?
I'd love to, Lou, but I'm playing tennis at the Simpsons again.
And that's where we can see that Marge is one aisle over, and she's kind of eavesdropping on these two a little bit. Ooh, Maggie, are your ears burning?
And Maggie's literally holding her ears in that moment, which is kind of cute. The Simpsons, you mean the LA Clippers of backyard tennis, which still tracks today for the most part.
Well, yeah, they're easier to beat than a suspect in shackles.
Pretty easy to beat a suspect in shackles, Chief.
Well, that's the joke, Lou. It's on the Simpsons, and they're easy beatability. This is where you can see that Marge is like, again, upset because she doesn't want to be known as bad at tennis. She's actually pretty decent at it and is trying to get good. And Mrs. Lovejoy, of all the people you don't want to see in these situations, walks up and to Lou and Wiggum and is like, I think they enjoy being humiliated.
I don't know what's sadder about the Simpsons, the fact that we mock them or that they shall never know.
And Marge is just looking like she's in agony an aisle over.
Never, ever, ever, ever. I wrote a note here, Miles, because that was Sideshow Mel. Let me read my notes. I just realized Sideshow Mel is never wearing a shirt in public. Kind of weird. Like when he's not on
observation.
Camera.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me until this moment.
And I mean, it's clearly not an issue in Springfield because he's in a grocery store with the cops right now.
Right. I mean, that's not saying much in Springfield, but it just occurred to me that he's never wearing a shirt.
I love the line about they're busting a crack house, but this time we got the right address too. I feel like that needs to get the attention and praise it deserves.
1, 2, 3, Fake Street.
And speaking of attention and praise they deserve, Marge is starting to feel that instead of that tennis court bringing them the respect that they thought it would, it is actually making them the laughing stock of the town. Homer agrees that he's willing to take at least partial responsibility.
It's all your fault.
But he actually agrees to Marge to take it seriously and try to improve.
He's like, what do you want me to say? That I'll practice until my arm turns red and bulges up and is in massive amounts of pain? That's all I ask.
We actually see that Homer's trying to make good on his promise because he's bought one of those serving machines and he's attempting to get better at his swing. And Marge is coaching him a little bit, telling him to follow through more. But she did not stress that when he follows through, he needs to continue holding on to the racket because he literally like chucks it like several yards over.
It lands in the serving machine.
No, this is the one where it lands several blocks over at the hospital. And
the racket lands in the tennis serving machine and then it explodes with the balls going everywhere. I thought
that's what it is. Yeah. And one of the balls lands several blocks over. Where Dr. Hibbert is having an outdoor surgery because it's such a beautiful day. He's like, I don't know why we don't operate outside more often. And then right on
karma
cue,
hits.
flat, a tennis ball lands in this open cadaver, which maybe they could borrow that free autopsy coupon.
Well, to be fair, that body wasn't a cadaver yet until the tennis ball.
I think it was after the tennis ball hit.
Yeah, that's because he goes, time of death.
We continue. There is a quick moment where Marge is vacuuming the tennis court, which I thought was funny. Just a good image. Homer's got good news. He's found a way to prove to Springfield that they are not losers. He entered himself and Marge into a doubles tournament.
What?
Two autopsies for the price of one. Sorry.
We're not ready to compete again.
Oh, don't worry. The tournament's not till tomorrow. So they get up and they're going to get as much practice time as possible. But when he tries to serve the ball, it immediately he hooks his own pants, flips onto the ground, and then it catches on Marge's hair, I think.
Yeah, it's Homer tries to serve. He brings the racket back, and it gets inside his pants. And when he swings forward, he rips his pants off, and they fly onto Marge's hair.
There you go.
Which is basically the worst outcome that could have happened out of everything possible. Right there. Yeah. Get him off! Get him off! And then Homer's like, how embarrassing.
Homer decides he's had enough practice for the day, so he hands off his racket to Bart and goes inside for a beer. Later, sitting in the Homer has his beer, and Lisa walks in.
Well, Homer and Lisa, I think, are chilling in the kitchen, and then Marge comes in to take a break.
Yep,
and Homer says, I'll be right out, honey.
Oh, that's okay. Bart's doing fine. You just have another beer, which is like magic words to Homer, I would guess.
Now, that's the kind of nagging I can live with. So Barney's like, you're on your own, dude. And I'm like, not even.
He's like gossiping to Lisa, and Lisa's like, I don't know what this has to do with the Civil War.
I'm getting to that.
We see that Marge and Bart are actually making quite the team. They're getting a volley going back and forth, and they're having a lot more success than anything we've seen with Homer so far.
And the shots, you look at Bart's eyes, like it looks like he's at that level that Marge needs.
Homer walks out and is like, looking good, honey. I think you and I might just win this tournament dealie. Marge doesn't even acknowledge him, still focused with Bart. Hey, Bart, yeah, you got your daddy's hustle, boy. Huh, too busy to reply, huh? Oh, I know how that goes. Well, I think I'll go lay out my clothes for the tournament. And like Homer is just very clearly being ignored at this point.
Yep.
But like it doesn't really feel like as much of a negative against Homer. It's just that literally Marge and Bart take this game very seriously, and they're focused on their practice.
That's kind of like the duality of this episode, because I don't really feel like in the past scenes that there's really anybody at fault here. Like Homer's having a lot of fun. Marge just needs to learn to have a different, like, just be like, hey, I'm going to play with somebody else for this one match that we have against, Wiggum and Lou, or switch up their doubles partners. But like Marge is also not at fault because she's competitive and she wants to be good at this and she wants to win. And we all want to do that when we play sports like that for the most part. So it's lack of communication, Miles. That's all it is.
That's very fair.
If they would have called Serena and Venus at the very first scene, we wouldn't even have an episode.
Yeah, it'd be all over by now. There's another great example of miscommunication right here, because Homer again still thinks he's in this doubles tournament with his wife, and when he sees Bart wearing a tennis outfit, like complete with a headband and everything, Homer's like chuckling. He's like, "With that little outfit on, everyone's gonna think that you're in the tournament."
I am playing in the tournament.
Well, that's gonna be tough without a partner.
I've got a partner.
Oh, well, good for you. Is it anyone I know?
Yeah, you know her.
And this is where Marge enters, and we discover basically that it takes Homer a lot longer to realize that Homer has been replaced by Bart.
I just like it. Marge's like, there's something I should tell you. And Homer's like, the name of Bart's partner? I'm all ears.
And then whenever like Marge is like, I'm Bart's partner, he's like, no. You're my partner.
Dude, I think the lady's made her decision. Bart's outfit is on point. He looks like he's a pro tennis player in this.
So everybody in this episode has the white like sweatbands, but Bart has black sweatbands, and it looks dope, honestly. Yeah, and he's tennis's bad boy.
There you go.
He's like the bad guy in Karate Kid 3, Mike Barnes of tennis.
You mean the future bad guy of Cobra Kai season 5?
So can't wait, dude. Definitely, we'll have our third Cobra Kai episode when that comes out. We should try to avoid talking about it now. At some point, this Simpsons podcast is just going to subtly transition to a Cobra Kai podcast. We're going to see if anybody notices.
There's a lot less episodes.
I love that there's this really stupid gag here, but it's so funny to me. Homer's literally begging Marge like not to ditch him as a partner, and he's holding on to like the little like cottony pom-poms that are on the back of her tennis shoes, and like he's holding on to them, and she walks away, they literally rip off. But then in an act of anger, he throws them at the car as it drives away, and it shatters the back windshields. And then he's like, yeah, I don't think they saw me.
He runs back inside and hides under the wall. Yeah. I mean, that's what we would do as kids if something like that happened.
That's fair. Just the idea, though, it's again, they're very clearly like cotton weight. First of all, to the fact that he could throw them that far is impressive, but the shattering of the glass is just perfect. The only thing disappointing when glass shatters is if Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't come out. I'm not for it, but other than that, it was a great joke.
He'll come out one day in his Walker Miles. Don't worry.
That's the end of our second act, which is at the 12-minute and 49-second mark, which
so almost an 8-minute act.
Yeah, like 7.5 maybe, and then that leaves about I'd say close to 10, not quite. This last act will be like an 8 to 9 minute act, so they get progressively longer in this one as it goes along.
That's usually how it goes, Miles.
Sometimes they're remarkably even, dude. Like, I
thought you were gonna say short.
So we start out Act 3 and see that Marge and Bart have already won the tournament, but this has made Homer even more upset. And when they arrive home with their good news, he is whittling his tennis racket into a like large point. It's like a very violent looking racket.
But not an edible steak.
And he's very creepy here. He's like, hello, Marge. Hello, Bart. How are the tennis partners?
And if Homer puts that steak on the top shelf, the stakes will never be higher. Oh, Homer, I'm sorry about your feelings.
Homer, don't touch me. Your hands feel like salad tongs.
I just wanted to win for once. Please don't take it as a threat to your manhood.
Ah, my manhood? I never thought of that.
We were good, Dad. They asked us to play in the Krusty Classic.
Oof. And boy, did they mess up the spelling of the Krusty Charity Classic.
Charity Classic.
We basically see, let's see, dealing with a psychologist. That's right. So Homer is very worried that he's being replaced by the younger, more in-your-face version of me, which he thinks like Bart is like replacing him, and Lisa is going to explain what's happening.
I like before that, Bart and Marge are talking about the charity is for balcony collapses, and Bart's like, we can wipe out BC in our lifetime. Homer doesn't care about BC, Miles. He cares about ME. My enjoyment.
Yeah, it's a good joke. But while Homer is being selfish, he's obviously also not handling his own mental health very well in this situation. He's crying to Lisa again. It's obvious I'm being replaced by a younger, more in-your-face version of me.
Dad, you're just going through a classic Oedipal anxiety. You remember the story of Oedipus, don't you?
Well, maybe $5 would refresh my memory.
That's actually a clever tactic there, Miles. Very clever tactic. Oedipus killed his father and married his mother.
Yeah. Who pays for that wedding?
I'm just saying, you feel threatened by Bart, but it's all in your head.
And that's, I believe this is where we lead into Homer having a nightmare where Bart is like Hugh Hefner style, like hanging out in a robe, drinking a glass of wine and being not creepy in this, not physically creepy in this dream, but the whole concept is pretty creepy that Homer is seeing Bart as a replacement of himself with Marge, who's wearing a provocative evening gown.
They had to toe a very fine line in this scene, Miles. But I feel like at the end they pay it off where they're saying, talk about how the late husband's no longer here. And then you realize Bart's a hunter, and they pan over to the wall, and you see like the lion's head of Homer on the wall with a weird look in his face.
Yeah, I do like that. It's oh fuck, what's the caption on it? It made me laugh, and now I can't remember what it was.
Didn't even, man, I must be that blind because I didn't even see a caption on it. The last caption I saw in this episode was "Sales of the Crypt."
There was something. It was like underneath his picture, and man, I wish I could remember what it was, but I cannot. Oh well, it is what it is.
If only we were a podcast that did research. So the homework for all the listeners out there: watch the episode and look for the tagline under Homer's head.
And then when there isn't one, I'm going to be freaked out, but it's all right. So Homer has a solution. If he can't win at tennis with his wife, why not play tennis with his daughter? So he recruits
after he
Lisa.
says he's going to chain Bart up.
Yeah, that's true. Homer more or less makes Lisa play is pretty much how it starts. And especially when it comes to like Homer made like a cardboard cutout with Marge and Bart having like dumb faces, and he's having Lisa hit tennis balls at them.
And she actually does a pretty good job.
But then when Bart and Marge walk out, they're like getting mad at Lisa. Lisa, did you make that awful effigy?
Hey, leave my teammate alone.
Lisa's your teammate? Oh, that was Bart. Whatever. He sounds more and more like his mother every day.
There you go. What's so funny? I'm better than you.
And this breaks down into a breakdown, an argument. But what's actually really interesting and something that's kind of unusual is Lisa throws a shot at her mom, which is not something you see often, because when Marge says, that's not true to Lisa, Lisa's like, how would you know? Your backhand looks like a rusty gate.
Yeah, but I also feel like it could be in tune with Lisa's character because she's so smart and she's a quick learner that like she's picking up the game super fast. So she's going to pick up on things like that. And to be fair, Marge, like with Lisa saying I'm better than you to Bart and Marge saying, Lisa, that's not true. Like that's shade thrown at Lisa. So gloves are off here, Miles.
No, that's fair. I agree. There's a good scene at the dinner table too, where they're having dinner together, and it's it starts with the kids especially. They're trying to. Bart's like, telegram for Lisa.
Don't listen. It's a trick.
Dear Lisa, psych, 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 signed, super psych.
I think he's trying to psych you out.
And Marge gets angry at this point. She's like, look, we're all trying to have dinner, so why don't we just psych, 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 psych?
I really enjoyed that.
Marge getting in the shots is always fun because there is a lot of comedy that comes to her character being a punching bag for the obviously dumb Homer, but like it's nice when you see her get her shots back out sometimes.
And there's something to be said about the fact that like in this whole scene that like all four of them are in on it. Where there is not like the only straight man in the scene would be Maggie, basically. Nobody
in this family is handling this situation with any sense of like maturity or poise.
Mm-hmm. And I have a question because we're cutting to the Krusty tournament now. How did Homer and Lisa get in this tournament? Because Bart and Marge had to get invited.
They qualified, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Maybe it's because Homer's name was still on the doubles team name.
Maybe he dressed up as Krusty with his old gear and went and put his name on the.
Oh no, dude! They explained it. It's a wizard did it.
Oh, okay.
I love that out. It's one of the best they ever created.
I think we need to come up with a secondary out.
Such a bad choice for Krusty to spell charity with a K. But we are at the Krusty charity.
Classic.
Something else, classic, also with a K. A lot of typos in that. It's like they were almost forcing that joke. Oh my god, another just fantastic like animation joke. We see at the tournament, one of the first things we see is like in tennis, the ball boys always run across and like pick up the ball that's in play, and they like pretty much are like there to get on and off the court as quickly as possible. 3 times in a row, we see 2 sets of ball boys running from opposite sides of the court, headbutt, pass out, and ends up in a pile of bodies on the center court.
For someone who said they didn't enjoy the episode as much as they thought they would, you seem to be laughing at a lot of the jokes.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Reviewing this, like as I'm saying this, and as we're going through it joke by joke, it's again like raising my opinion of this episode back up a little bit.
That's how it goes mid-episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's almost like when I was a kid, I thought the episode had the advantage, and then after watching it was like a deuce, and now I feel like we're almost back up to advantage again.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see how this one plays out.
I may have tried to force that one with too much topspin. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm running out, but I'm not done yet. Krusty is there to address, I'm sorry, we have to talk about Mr. Burns real quick because he's got the giant novelty foam hand, or so we think, as he's cheering on the tennis game, but it turns out that was just fluid collecting in his body.
Fluid collecting.
Ooh.
Yes.
Krusty comes out to center court with a couple of tennis rackets hanging from his earlobes.
Hey, what do you think, folks? I hope I don't get arrested for rackets earring, which is something I would absolutely say in this day and age. What do you want? I'm not going to do material for charity. Miles, you didn't use a racket joke yet.
I haven't. You're right. That's fair. I like this joke a lot, and they do talk about this on the commentary, but what I like so much about it is that this joke is worse because like 2 people laugh. Like if it would have just been dead silence, it would not have been as funny. Like it would not have bombed as hard. But like the fact that there's a couple people lightly chuckling, that implies that everybody heard it, just nobody cares. We see that the trash talk continues between Homer and Lisa versus Marge and Bart. Homer is actually starting to get worried, though. He's talked a lot of trash. He's hoping that his, tennis game can cash the check that his mouth has written at this point. And it just so happens that Krusty is introducing celebrities in the audience today, including Venus and Serena Williams, 2 of the tennis world's most unbeatable players.
Unbeatable, eh?
And we see Homer actually like runs up through the crowd to where the Williams sisters are sitting.
I love it. Like as he's going up through the crowd, he passes over Otto at one point. He's like, "Oh, hey, Otto," as he's crawling through everybody.
Serena and Venus are like, "What are you doing?"
That's our dad's seat.
Which, if you haven't seen it, King Richard is a fantastic movie.
Was it really?
Oh, I loved it. I'm sure it misses a lot of like in terms of like being accurate. I couldn't tell you how good it is, but in terms of like a great performance by Will Smith and his daughters, really, really great watch. I enjoyed it. And the dude that plays the Punisher is like a tennis coach in it, and he's like amazing. Like I respected him even more as an actor after seeing that, just because I'm learning more and more how good he is at more than just the Punisher. Yeah.
Do you know how you track Will Smith in the snow, Miles?
How?
Look for Fresh Prince.
I love that. That's a good one.
Always get one in, folks.
Hey, great. Listen, I need a new doubles partner, all right? My little girl's dead, a lead weight.
You're dumping your own daughter?
Yeah, but only to crush my wife and son.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
You seem less disgusted. Let's go.
So he grabs Venus, who had the less disgusted reply to his comment. Krusty announces that Marge and Bart Simpson are up next versus Homer and Venus Simpson.
Venus Simpson? You're replacing me?
Now, Lisa, dumping is such a hard word. Let's just say I'm replacing you. Oh, man. It's like he had already practiced that conversation in his head and expected her to say dumped, but it was like, oh, I'll soften the blow. We see Venus immediately take advantage by like literally splitting Marge's hair in half as she serves at her.
It's a high serve.
And it gives her that the bunny rabbit ears from Life is Hell.
Yep. And then she starts complaining to Wiggum because, like, obviously, if you're Marge or Bart and you're having to face Venus Williams, like, you're going to complain.
Absolutely. But Wiggum is a little bit preoccupied. We've all got problems. I dropped my cookie.
And the ball boy starts to go for the cookie.
And he cocks his gun and points it at him. You sure you want to risk it? Which, by the way, just want to point out that in our 2022 world, with the reputation that cops have, it is okay for this joke to fly, but you can't show Homer's ass. And for what it's worth, I'm not trying to make the case that this joke shouldn't fly. It absolutely should. But I also just want to be able to look at Homer's bare ass when I want to.
Why is it okay? It's the whole sex and violence argument. Mm-hmm. Like, why is the excessive violence okay, but Homer's funny looking butt not?
Exactly, and
especially when they're not doing it in a porn aspect.
Act. Yeah, he's literally showering. If anything, we should normalize showering. I know a lot of people who could use that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody else.
Marge is giving up on, or is frustrated about the unfairness of it all, but she has a way to, after complaining,
it's actually
Wiggum comes up with the solution. You guys can have Serena.
I just ate a personal pizza.
Bart is now upset too. Oh, you're dumping me?
Honey, I'll make it up to you in bottle rockets.
That pretty much flies with Bart.
I feel like he'd be okay with that.
Yeah. This turns into Venus playing well, despite Homer coaching her. Marge missing a shot, and that gets Serena to call out for her friend Pete Sampras to take.
I think she's like, Marge, you really want to win, right? And she's like, more than anything. It's like, Pete, you're up.
That gets everybody's been. Homer's laughing triumphantly. Ha ha! Everyone's been dumped but me. I'm undumpable.
Yoink.
And then it's Andre Agassi, and Homer yells out, "My tennis stick! Who are you?" My tennis stick.
Yeah. I'm Andre Agassi,
the wrestler.
I knew you would like that line. Of course you would.
It's just fun. Andre Agassi was, I would say, outside of Venus and Serena, Andre Agassi was probably the most physically recognizable tennis player at this time.
Yeah. So they got to hurry up and start playing, Miles, because Sampras is going to be shooting a ho-ho commercial later.
Homer is trying to figure out who he is. Which am I? Am I Serena or Venus?
You're Andre. I'm Serena.
You're a girl.
Why don't we stop this nonsense? I'm not even mad anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I'm just enjoying some world-class tennis.
There's a lesson here for all of us. It's better to watch stuff than to do stuff.
Amen.
After the tournament, let's go out for a nice family dinner.
Courtesy of Pete Sampras. And he holds up his wallet. But he immediately gets hit by a tennis ball. And he's like, "Oops, sorry." And puts the wallet back, but only after taking some cash out of it.
And then he says, "Sucker."
And that brings us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode, Tennis the Menace. Richie, is there anything else that you want to say about this episode before we call it a day?
I thought this episode was pretty funny, man. Again, I didn't have high expectations for this one. For some reason in my mind, I thought the guest stars took away from the episode, remembering back on it. But actually watching it, I thought it was a pretty funny episode. And I feel differently about the guest stars on this one, even though they're only script wise for us, with Miles blowing up the script so my little eyes can read it. They're only.
I thought you just meant how poorly I read today.
Well, that too, but they're only on the last 2 pages of the script, so they're not really in the episode that long. And it is definitely a little bit weird structurally of an episode with how long it takes them to get to the A plot, and how they just have to directly put a line in there to segue to it, which seems kind of odd at times. But I don't know, that just on this particular watch back or watch through, it worked for me. I laughed at a lot of parts in this one, and I was not expecting that when we started.
Yeah, going back through the script, I definitely felt like my opinion changed again a little bit. But what you said about the guest stars really tracks. I feel like I was very excited to see these people on the show when I was younger.
Advertised it.
Yeah, it was a big. I mean, if you have the largest tennis stars in the world, and I'm guessing when was this? It was February. Well, I mean, the thing with tennis is there's always a major cup at sometime in the next 3 months at most. So like it's pretty much like an all year round type of sport for the most part. That's why I think they go all over the world so that they get the climate they need or whatever. But regardless, I do actually think that to some extent the guest stars did just feel a little bit out of place or forced into the story last minute.
Underutilized.
Underutilized would be another good word. On the commentary, they said that all of them were so generous with their time and had a really fun time with the experience. And they're, it was once again, just a great recording with guest experience for the staff at The Simpsons. And I don't think that any guest star did a bad job. I think it's what it is they're more or less used for the Simpsons reset in this one. And that's their only real purpose, is to come in and get it all back to normal. It all happened so quickly at the last second, and there's some good humor in it. But like, I think that part just kind of is what makes my opinion of this episode drop a little bit.
I honestly enjoy how they're like, I don't even know why we're mad anymore, because you kind of feel The Simpsons, at least, because you kind of feel that way too by the end of all these shenanigans. And they're like, let's just go out and have some food. Like I felt that emotion with them, because I'm like, I don't even remember what got this started in the first place with the feuding. And I was like, oh yeah, Marge wanted to win and Homer wanted to be a jackass. But I felt that tiredness of the anger by the end.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. The only other thing I have to say is from IMDb. They talked about a little bit on the commentary as well. This episode was the third attempt, and it was a test at switching over to digital coloring. So in season 7, Radioactive Man, and then the Simpsons 138th episode, Spectacular, had done it previously, but this was their third attempt at trying it out. They even asked directly, Al Jean and Matt Selman both spoke on it, and they were directly asked, like, can you tell the difference between a digitally colored and a hand colored episode? And they both admitted that, like, if they were only given a couple seconds of footage, they probably couldn't. Over the course of an entire episode, there are ways, especially they said the biggest ones are when they either zoom in or zoom out on something. You'll see the lines blur a little bit more with digital coloring than you will with hand-drawn coloring. But as we do know, they do switch over in a couple of seasons, and it will become the way that all Simpsons episodes moving forwards are done. So it seems like a successful test, and I think for the most part, if I didn't just say that, most people probably wouldn't realize it.
I wouldn't have noticed, but like, I do think it's a sign of the times are a-changing in 2001. So you got the technology. If it's going to make your life a little easier, why not use it?
Yeah, and again, if you've got like two of the people most closely associated with The Simpsons who admit that across the board it's very hard to tell the difference, why wouldn't you go with the easier, cheaper process? It just makes sense.
Yep.
It completely makes sense to me. But yeah, that is going to do it for this week's episode, Tennis the Menace. Richie, you want to let them know where they can find us online?
Absolutely. I'm going to say my own name first this time. You can follow me at @thewiz_kid23. You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off all over social media. You can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY.
As always, love to thank you guys so much for joining in and going on this journey with us through The Simpsons, the Golden Age and beyond, and all the other nonsense side tangents we get into. We'll probably be having a Best Darn Everything coming up real soon, but next Simpsons episode we're going to be lobbing your way. We'll have our spin of the episode Day of the Jackanapes.
When we do that podcast, Miles will be an ace at the script. Psych! 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 Psych!
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.